We look at Kian today and, it could be very easy to say, well, he's really well put together, beautiful marriage, beautiful family, great leader. It's easy to miss all of the things that it took for God to bring him there. Kian's story represents the grace of God through imperfection.
Growing up in my family, I think I would say that I never felt like I belonged there. There was members of my family that would constantly tell me that I was stupid, and it kind of became my nickname. It was like, hey, stupid. And so much so that I started to believe in that. It made me feel pretty frustrated and angry at the time. And I think that carried all the way through. My friends used to make a lot of comments about how, dude, you're so angry. Like, why are you so uptight, or why are you so upset? Until one day, my friends just kept having a Bible study outside of the place where I was working. And they kept inviting me, and I was like, no, it's not for me. But they kept hounding me. And so I started sitting with them, and I got invited into our church at the time, which was New Hope Diamond Head, in 2008. And that's when I started attending and being a part of our community, which is now known as C4. That was really one of the things that started to shift my life. It began to challenge the things that I thought I knew. It's basically like God took up this rubbish can and turned it upside down and started dumping a whole bunch of things out. I was really on fire, going through this new experience with Jesus, just hearing from him in crazy ways. I remember in the beginning of my walk, just praying for people and the supernatural things happening that I couldn't explain it. And so it was an amazing journey. And I wish I could just say it just kept going up and up from there. But it really takes a lot to undo those beliefs. And so even in working at the church, being on staff, leading our youth, I still had this performance mindset where I had to become the best. I had to build the best teams. I had to have the best youth ministry. It had to be bigger. It had to be better than the other ones around us. That I actually lost track of Jesus in the midst of that. That lie keeps coming back up. Oh, actually, you're too stupid to do these things. And you actually don't belong in this community as well. So now I have this performance mindset fighting these lies. I felt like I was failing, so I went into this self-destruction mode where I fell back into my previous addictions. And ultimately, in 2014, I just remember, like, I can't do this. And I resigned from our church. And in this process, I thought they all wanted me to just do something for them, So now that I'm not useful anymore, nobody's gonna call me, nobody's gonna pay attention to me. But in that moment where I felt like I was so invaluable and disqualified, there was a couple of people that actually came alongside me and pulled me closer, Pastor Creighton and Pastor TJ.
He needed to know that I would not, as a spiritual dad, ever give up on him. So there'd be times where he would give up on himself, just isolate himself, and that I would feel the Lord say, and actually me and TJ would just go hunt him down. Literally, he'd say, no, I have strep throat, don't come and see me. We said, we don't care. Kian, although you're giving up on yourself, we will never give up on you. And it was in those moments where I feel the Lord did something in his life, where that representation of people or of a spiritual dad not giving up on him really gave him an experience that his Heavenly Father will also never give up on him.
That really began to break this paradigm of my performance mindset and what value and love really looks like.
Kian had to come to this place of not just knowing it in his head, but knowing it in his heart, that where the Lord calls, the Lord will qualify, the Lord will justify and glorify. That Jesus, in his calling, would be enough for Kian.
God brought this amazing woman, my beautiful wife Lauren, into my life, but yet those lies keep coming back up. you're too stupid. It's not going to work out. Everything's going to fall apart. And you actually don't deserve a family. It's kind of these lies that I was hearing. And so our first 2 years of marriage were super rough. Like, I think if we didn't have our community, we probably wouldn't be together today.
The community that we have, it's a safe place where he's accepted and molded to walk in the design that God has for him and to walk in God's promise. When I look back at who he was and I look at who he is now, it makes me hopeful that we can help our kids walk in that same freedom to be who God designed them to be. And it makes me feel very proud of the journey that he's been on and how he's been so faithful to walk with the Lord.
There's been a lot of painful seasons throughout this journey, but I would tell you that I would never change any of this, because throughout the process, it's actually helped me to understand what it really means to make God the first thing in my life, the most important thing, to be able to abide in him and his word and his ways.
To be able to look at a person like Kian, who is walking in the fullness of God's promise. He's an awesome husband, a father. He's a son to an older mom and dad, and honoring them. And all of this is a journey, but I definitely feel there's a demarcation where he has entered into the promised land. He's beginning to see the fruit of some very faith-based decisions that he's made in the past, but he's really beginning to taste and see the goodness of the Lord. So for me, my heart is so full in seeing Kian beginning to walk in the promises of God and really creating a legacy of faith in his family and children.